Thanks for the love.
All right, thanks for coming, guys. And thank you for coming, Jalen.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I was excited to meet you today because one of the really cool things about you is that if you actually go through your resume, it's exhausting. You know, you're wildly popular player at Michigan, 13-year veteran in the NBA, transitioned into broadcasting, become an analyst. You became an executive producer, a generous philanthropist, and now you're an author, so congratulations.
Thank you. Hopefully best-selling offer. Go get the
there
book.
You go.
Got to give them what they need.
That's it. That's it. So I was telling Jalen backstage how I finally finished the book last night. Absolutely unbelievable.
Thank you.
You know, we talked about how it really weaves basketball and life just so beautifully. So everybody, sports fan or not, definitely go pick it up. Definitely read it. And so let's start from the beginning. You grew up on the west side of Detroit. Didn't have a lot to speak of, but you had a lot of role models. And can you talk about how your upbringing had kind of shaped how you've turned out and the great man you've become?
I learned at an early age, you just try to look for the best in everyone. And we all have bad habits, bad traits, things that we probably do that we're not so proud of. So I didn't have perfect brothers or sister or perfect uncles or perfect mom. But what I did was learn their attributes that I love that help make them who they are. My mother's work ethic, my brother's discipline, my other brother's work ethic. And so implying that into my life, when you're growing up in Detroit, in the inner city, in particular on the northwest side, you lose your innocence early because you're exposed to so much. You're exposed to sex, drugs, crime, alcohol at a very young age. So you find yourself 11, 12 years old having to make decisions that should be for 21 and 22-year-olds. And so those mentors, my community, did the best that they could to help raise a child. A perfect child? By no means. I made some of the dumbest decisions of all time. And that's why I wanted to write this book, so that I can provide inspiration and motivation to those that read it.
One of the most interesting parts about the book, especially early on, I thought, was that you touched upon how the schools that you attended when you were younger are now all closed. And you talked about how, you know, if that continues to happen, if education continues to suffer, you go into kind of vivid detail of what that awful domino effect is. But you're someone who's helping put a stop to that. So you opened a tuition-free charter school in the same zip code you grew up in, and have sunk millions of dollars into that project. You know, such a special initiative. Can you talk about how that came about and what that process has been like to build it up to what it is today?
A lot of work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of passion. When we were talking about who we were going to name the school after, I sent them a list of 50 people that are a lot more notable than me. But they were like, if you put your name on it, you're going to own it. Right now in the city of Detroit, there are approximately 65 empty school buildings that eventually become eyesores for the community. So early 2000, when I started my foundation, initially we were influencing 5 public school kids via scholarship. And I also have an endowment at the University of Michigan that graduated 2 kids. So really, the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy was a graduation of that mission. How can I give back? And I felt it was through education and trying to bridge the education gap. In Michigan, for example, a school like Detroit Country Day, one of the more prominent schools in the suburbs, fortunate families are able to pay $35,000 a year starting at kindergarten for their son or daughter's education. So how do I get the student that gets $7,200 from the state, 0 state funding for our facility? Like, no, they're not encouraging you to do this at all. You get 0 state funding, not to rent, lease, expand, repair, not a dime. How do I get that kid to compete with the other kid in the same college classroom? That's the goal of JRLA. And to graduate them from college. There are a lot of schools that have done an amazing job of graduating kids from high school. but they don't own the data of what happens after that. We're owning the data. We have college success staff at our school that are monitoring all of our graduates to make sure that they also matriculate through college.
That's amazing. As a youngster, right before high school, you made a decision that you were going to play in the NBA. And it's kind of a funny story how that happened. Can you walk me through what was going through your mind when Sam Washington made this crazy revelation to you and what that did for your motivation?
If you read the book, you'll realize that, and I'm not necessarily proud of this, that I have irrational confidence, okay? It's the gift and the curse. You'll see a story in the book where I felt like I was Steve Austin, a $6 million man, and I felt like I could jump over the pool. Like, that happened. So in sixth grade, athletic director Sam Washington, St. Cecilia is the equivalent of what Rucker Park here is in New York. It's the holy grail of playing basketball. And I was goofing off in the gym one day, and he never called me by my first name. He's like, you can't stay out of trouble. You always talking. He always called me Rolls because I played football, but during basketball season, I would always get in trouble and get suspended, and I couldn't really play on the team. So he was like, I'm not calling you by your first name. And I was goofing off. He took me downstairs, put on an old projector, and it was footage of my biological father playing in the NBA. And I was like, wow, he's good. So two things happened that day. One, irrational confidence kicked in. Like, I'm definitely going to the NBA. My father was in the NBA. Book it. I'll be there. I'm serious. I started writing my autographs as Dr. J. I did. I was feeling myself way too early. And the second part of that was the pain and the hurt that I never met my father, but I think he's so successful. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to make sure he knows my name. So when I went to high school, his number was 24. I wore 42 to spite him. So when people see me at Michigan, they see me wearing number 5. That was because I was the 5th member of the Fab Five to sign his letter of intent. But my number in high school was actually 42. And that day I decided not only was I going to the NBA, but I was going to make sure my biological father knew my name.
And then, like you alluded to, you eventually got a scholarship to Michigan, became that first team where you started 5 players who were freshmen, and you guys were it. You know, you were the coolest players in the world, and that was that. And, you know, for people who, you know, wanted to inject a little swag in their game, you know, the headband, the baggy shorts, that all came really from you. And when you look back at that time, is there anything you would have done different, or, you know, or are you proud of everything that came about from that era?
I almost stood up to say this one. I wish we could have trademarked everything. Imagine if we got money for every time somebody bought black socks, okay? When we first wore black socks, we went to the mall and buy them. It was 3 pairs in the whole mall, okay? I wore dress socks on top of my sweat socks because they didn't have 5 pairs. So that's one thing that has changed. Players now, more sophisticated. We're in the information age. So somebody like LeBron James owned his brand since high school. We didn't necessarily own our brands. That's probably the only thing that I would have felt could have been done different, and obviously win the national championship. Those are the 2 things I wish would have happened.
Well, you mentioned trademarks. One of the things I was curious to get your opinion on was that, you know, in your book you talk about how you said you want to start conversations, but even better arguments. And a big argument has to do with what you talked about, trademarks, money, all that. Do you think that college players should be paid?
Not in terms of being paid like an employee. I think they should get some type of stipend on top of their scholarship. Not something that you're going to get rich off of and retire, but a couple of $1,000, meal money. What do all college kids have in common? How I'm going to get ready for the next test, and I need money. All college kids have that issue, especially athletes, because once you sign a letter of intent, you are not allowed to work. So you take me from the northwest side of Detroit, where my mother struggled to pay the bills. I'm not getting to Ann Arbor, sending the bills home for her to pay. It doesn't work like that. And also, I'm actually earning my scholarship. You can't go to the coach and say, I got a big test tomorrow. Can I have practice off today? They'll look at you like you got 3 heads. You can't say, can I wear a different shoe than the school has a contract with? That would be a violation. So those are a couple of things, and that dynamic I'm not a fan of. In doing this book, I went back and watched a lot of games because I had to recall a lot of different, intimacies. I was looking through the VHS, by the way. I'm fast forwarding it. There were commercials of Mitch Albom's book about the Fab Five running during our games. A best-selling book, by the way, that we never got a dime for, and I boycotted it and I have not read it.
Well, you wrote this one, so
yes, indeed.
You're on your way.
I
to
wrote my own. Take that.
There you go. Well, everybody has their own opinions on that subject, but do you think it's something that's actually going to happen? Do you think we'll get to a point where college athletes are paid?
Yes, sir, because the media have gotten more sophisticated. When I was in college and we were talking about this, people were like, just shut up. You're on scholarship. You should just be happy. That was the overtone from fans and media, and somewhat a little jealousy. But now that the numbers are out there, what these schools get for their shoe contracts and their apparel deals and their television deals, and it's just money blowing through the roof, but they don't have to pay the actual players. That's like having a job or a company where all the work is getting done, but you don't have to pay the employees. That's what's happening with the NCAA. I think it will eventually change, but, man, it's going to be over a lot of people's dead body.
Were you sad to leave Michigan at the time, or were you just totally ready for that next chapter?
I left a year too late. I remember sitting in the locker room. By the way, my final game was against Arkansas. Who was the president then at the time? Bill Clinton. That's where he went to school. And while his team was out there warming up, we was in the locker room meeting the president. I remember walking out on the court, and it was like 12 minutes to go to start the game. So they got us with that. But what's the question? I do that once a day.
Were you sad to leave Michigan, or were you prepared for the next chapter?
I was ready to leave. I should have left after my junior year. I bought into we're going to come back and win the championship. You see me at the end of the game, I go hug Coach Fisher. I put my arm around him. I'm like, Coach, and I shouldn't have never said this. We're going to get you back next year. That was me telling him I was coming back. But I love Michigan. I love my collegiate experience. But more importantly, what I actually love is that it gave me a year closer to my degree that I actually got.
Yeah. That's a funny part, too, I wanted to bring up to you. So you finished your degree at Maryland, yes. Right? Did anyone ever come up to you and be like, what are you doing here? You can't be here. This is Terrapin country.
No, so at the time, Michigan wasn't providing me the correspondence courses I needed to graduate. I'm living in Indiana. I'm playing in the NBA. I'm trying to do what I can to actually graduate. But they didn't offer what I needed. So was it not do it because I'm waiting for them? I wasn't going to allow that to happen. So I went ahead and made it happen regardless, and I'm really glad that I did.
That's awesome. So 1994 NBA draft, you're sitting there. Glenn Robinson goes first. Jason Kidd, Grant Hill, the names start flying off. Were there any butterflies in your stomach? What was that night like? Because I know you're a man of confidence, but were you a little iffy that night?
So we'll start the night before, okay? I had 2 suits. So these guys have budgets now, okay? Their agents giving them suits and the jeweler giving them stuff to wear. I had 2 suits, and I felt that I was in a rational confidence kicking in. So I felt like I was going to get drafted by the Clippers or the Sonics. And this is a Detroit thing. I got a red and white suit for the Clippers, and I got a lime green suit for the Sonics. Okay, so I am in my hotel room pondering which one of those suits I'm going to wear, and I'm picking a big pimple that was under my left eye all night. I used so much alcohol you couldn't imagine. And so I was more worried about those things than actually what was going to happen the next day. Now, when the next day happened, I felt I'm an All-American. I played 3 years. I have on film, you know, what I'm capable of. I'm going to be in the top 7. And once we got to like 9, I'm like, they took him in front of me? You start to take it personal. I mean, we are competing against one another. But once you get picked, it's like waiting on the bus in the middle of winter or trying to flag down a taxi. Yeah, you want to get a bird to all of the ones that kept going, but the one that stopped, you like, thank you, thank you. And that's how I felt when I got drafted by the Nuggets at 13.
Well, you went on for a great career, 13 years in the NBA, but I think the majority of the successful occurrences in your career came with the Indiana Pacers. What's your favorite memory from them? And do you have any favorite teammates from that era?
Yes, you're going to get me in trouble in New York because my favorite memory is beating the Knicks in 2000 and go to the finals. That's when y'all had a team, at least. But the year before, I'm pretty sure most of you celebrated that are Knicks fans, the infamous Larry Johnson 4-point play. Okay, I was guarding Charlie Ward when he took the ball out of bounds, and I actually tipped the ball. Okay, so that dubiousness happened. I love playing with Reggie Miller. He was like a big brother for me. I learned a lot from him on and off the floor. Mark Jackson, Chris Mullin, who's now coaching at St. John's, playing for Larry Bird, who's an icon. Being in 6 years in Indiana was a terrific experience.
And then you transition into your current career of being on air and being a TV personality and a commentator and, you know, really dominating the media industry when it comes to sports. You have such a cool story about how you actually transitioned into that. Can you tell that story for everybody?
So I got traded from Indiana in this February, and I look at the standings, and the team that I got traded to, the Chicago Bulls, they had 9 total wins. I'm like, okay, we're not going to playoffs. So what I did is I had a contact at BET, Mad Sports at the time, and I pitched the idea for me to cover the NBA Finals for them. It was Lakers. Let you know how long ago this was. It was Lakers and New Jersey Nets. Okay? So I did it. I got the access. They sent the camera. I cut it. I spiced it. They liked it. They ran it. Once they ran it, I took the edit that they ran. I pitched it to Best Damn Sports Show at Fox. They liked it. They allowed me to work. They hired me. So while I'm playing in the league from 2002 to 2007, I'm actually working in the media while I'm in the league, covering the finals every year. So once I retired in 2007, I full-time transitioned to ESPN, and I've been there ever since.
Well, now, TV is one thing. You know, writing a book is a completely whole nother animal. Was that a goal of yours, or was that something that just kind of transpired over time with you in the industry and just became an interest?
A couple of things that I've done I could not have imagined I would do, okay? I could never have imagined that me, skinny, bumpy-faced kid, well, I'm not skinny anymore, skinny, bumpy-faced kid from Detroit with bad teeth would be the founder of a charter high school. Like, I never imagined that happening. The same with a book. I never imagined that I would write a book. But I felt a big chapter in my life close because, again, I mentioned Best Damn, I mentioned BET, Mass Sports, and ESPN, but I also work for MTV, ABC, ESPN2, Top Rank Boxing. Like, I was working for all of those entities, NFL Network. So now I feel like this is fully my second career. Entertainment, multimedia, founder of a charter high school. Now, since I feel that chapter is closed, but it went by so fast, the book gave me a chance to relive it and close the book.
One of the special things that happened to you throughout your broadcasting career is that through ESPN, you became very close with Bill Simmons, who actually wrote the foreword for your book. I thought he did a great job, too.
Yes, he did.
When Bill left ESPN, was that difficult for you on a personal level?
Absolutely, it was difficult. I would equate it to being a child and your parents get a divorce. Because I love ESPN. I love the opportunities they're giving me. I love my job. And Bill is my friend, mentor, and my brother, and we create a lot of quality content together. Spend a lot of time together coming up with ideas, NBA previews, job interviews. Like, these are things we crafted together. A podcast with myself and David Jacoby that has now become a radio show. Like, these are all things we put a lot of sweat equity into. But he's not with the company anymore, as you mentioned. I think he's going to do great things at HBO. I would not be surprised if I'm on his show, if he's on our radio show. The friendship is still there, and we'll see what happens in the future.
That's awesome. A lot of exciting things to look forward to. I think we're going to open up to the audience for questions.
Oh, cool.
So if we have anyone that has anything for Jalen.
Hey, Jalen, huge fan of the pod, and congratulations on the radio show. Super exciting.
Thank you.
The best part of every pod and radio show is when you open it up by singing the title of your book. Would you please give us a sample?
Got to give the people.
Give
the people what they want.
Yes, you just made my day.
Yes,
Thank you,
wow.
Jalen Rose.
Appreciate you. And thank you for supporting the podcast. And the funny thing is, I joked on the podcast, I'm like, I think I'm going to turn into Derrick Rose, and I want to save my voice until my kids go, till they get 25. So I thought about selling out and stop singing so I could save my voice, but I can't do that.
Hello.
Hello.
You mentioned that throughout your life you had a ton of great mentors and role models. What would you say was the main thing that you took from them that contributed the most to your success, overall success with your foundation, your book, etc.? So you mentioned things like work ethic or discipline. What was the main thing you would say?
Discipline and decision making. My high school coach, Perry Watson, used to always stress to us, in theory, if you're not taking care of business in the classroom, I can't rely on you to take care of business when it's 30 seconds to go in the game. You're going to be the guy, I draw up the play, and 2 steps later, you're going to say, what we running? Paying attention to detail, being multifaceted. Yes, I wanted to go to the NBA, but mass communications was my major in college. Like, I prepared to do what I'm doing nowadays. But it's unique because how many people in here have majors and they work in another field? So I got fortunate with that. And also, street smarts. You have to be able to navigate all of the chaos that's happening around you. Like, just because I'm walking up the street to the bus stop to go to school, that doesn't mean it's not a crack house happening here, violence happening right there, this guy getting arrested, this guy getting shot. So you got to have a tunnel vision and a focus and a discipline to try to keep your nose clean and do the best you can to try to make your goals and dreams come true.
Hey, Jalen.
What's happening?
Thanks for the book. I think I owe you some money.
Thank you.
I want to take it back to college. I went to UNC Chapel Hill, where the athletic scandals were like widely publicized. I wanted to ask you, what was your experience with academics when you were in college, and what advice would you give to like current student athletes?
Thank you for the question. Michigan is we boast that Michigan is an Ivy League school in the Midwest. You got to go to class. Like, I don't care how many tackles you had on Saturday. I don't care how many points you had last night. That's the misnomer, that we just showed up, played basketball, and napped all day. You have to go to class. I wanted to go to class. I was an honor roll student in high school. I made the dean's list in college. So I didn't have to be forced to do it. But again, a lot of people would think, because of the way we were vilified and the way we were covered, that something like that would have come out about us. What you see at UNC, what you're seeing at SMU. You didn't hear anything about that with us. And as a matter of fact, the best-selling book that I talked about with Mitch Albom, there was nothing in there talking about any type of scandals. So Steve Fisher did an amazing job being a leader, keeping us in line. And the guys did a good job of paying attention to the rules. Until later on.
Hello, love the podcast. Are
Thank
you
you.
more excited about Jim Harbaugh right now at Michigan, or more disappointed in the Lions and how they got hosed?
Oh, body shot. I'm sweating now. I'm a lifelong Lions fan, okay? Our greatest quarterback in our team's history is Bobby Lane. But the problem is that was in the 50s and the 60s, right? What a coincidence that our current quarterback, Matthew Stafford, and he went to the same high school. Can't make this stuff up. And I guess I like Matthew Stafford, but he's not an elite quarterback. So while we're happy to have him, I'm thinking, why couldn't we get Tom Brady? Like, why couldn't we get Aaron Rodgers? So I'm disappointed that we're 0-4. We play the Cardinals coming up. They're tough. We may end up 0-5. I'm really disappointed in the Lions. I'm happy for Harbaugh, but I'm not surprised. He leaves San Francisco. Colin Kaepernick seemed like he can't throw the football anymore. They've lost their last few games. So many players have retired from that team. That's become a disaster since he's left. But I'm happy he's in Ann Arbor. But I'm more disappointed in the Lions.
Okay, this will be our last question from an online viewer. Jay would like to know, how do you think the Knicks will do this upcoming season?
You have to be honest.
I was trying to see if I could count their wins on one hand. I think Carmelo Anthony is going to have a strong year scoring the ball. When you're friends with LeBron and Wade, who've won championships, and Chris Paul, who's on the Clippers, that plays on a contending team, and you Carmelo Anthony, you go to practice, you know that your team is not really good overall. So how do you salvage that? I expect him to come out and average close to 30 this year. I expect Melo to go off. If he don't, he might be mad about what I have to say on TV. But as far as the Knicks overall, they're in the Eastern Conference. All you have to do is wear shorts and have a pulse in the East, and you got a chance to make it in the playoffs. Under 500 teams make the playoffs in the East. The Knicks won't be one.
That's a rough way to end this.
I mean, I know they paid Phil and Derek Fisher $100 million, but Phil took that as a vacation package. He just came out and said, you know what I'm going to do this year? I'm going to spend more time with the team.
Real quick, we'll end on a positive note. Give me your NBA championship prediction.
Ooh.
Real early one, just for fun.
Cleveland wins the Eastern Conference. Right now, I'm vacillating between the Clippers and OKC for the West. I got to see Kevin Durant's health. This is the best team the Clippers have ever. And by the way, we are talking about the Clippers, so I guess it's not saying much about their history. But this is the best basketball team they've ever put in uniform. Now adding Paul Pierce at this point of his career, if they can't win it this year, they may never win it.
Yeah, should be interesting. Guys, this is Jalen Rose. Everybody go pick up his
Thanks
book.
for the love. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.